The break is off now. We're back to business as usual. And of course, as we are returning to business as usual, so should you do as well. Quickly kickstart of your investment journey with Zabo, a platform by Aldex East Africa, which tells you that it's no hassle as you just dial *292# the USSD code for the MTN subscribers and follow the prompts as well as following all that matters to start your investment journey. Zabo, a platform by Altex East Africa, says you can do something new today. And of course, the only good thing you can do today is by using your money to invest into something that will definitely shape up your future. The markets open at 8:15 a.m. and close at 3:15 p.m. East African Standard Time. Zabo says, my money, my future. And of course, do remember that the markets are only closed on public holidays and during weekends, but the rest of the days it's a no hassle for you. Invest in Zabo, invest in bonds and securities with Zabo, which is a platform by Altex East Africa. Right, and now it is time for us to get more of what is coming in from the world of sports business. All right, now it's just been a few days after the World Cup did end, and of course, when you look at the world of business, every other tournament of such a glance always brings up to speed with the business community. Now, Tanzania, on the other hand, has benefited from the World Cup, and according to reports coming in from Tanzania, are showing that meat exports to Qatar soared in the month of November as the World Cup was progressing. Tanzania did benefit from the FIFA World Cup finals in Qatar in form of increased meat exports to the Gulf state during the month-long extravaganza, the month-long football extravaganza. Now, Qatar is the largest importer of meat from Tanzania, especially goat's meat, followed by Oman, United Arab Emirates, as well as Saudi Arabia and Bahrain. Now, the other leading destinations are Kenya, Togo, Kuwait, China, Comoros, and Canada. Now, in November 2022, Tanzania's meat exports more than doubled to 1,423 tons, an increase of 125%, as well as Tanzania's meat exports turning in October did increase to 632 tons, according to the Tanzania Meat Board, the TMTB. Now, the value of the meat exports also increased from $2.9 million, about 6.8 billion Tanzanian shillings in October, to $5.37 million, about 12.5 billion Tanzanian shillings in November. Now, in October, the value of meat exports dropped to $2.9 million from $3.8 million registered in September, with stakeholders blaming the fall on drought, which affected meat quality. Now, Mr. Charisma said the situation was still affecting meat quality, but the impact on goat's meat was not as pronounced as that on beef and other types of meat. As in October, Qatar Airways announced adjustments to its network in order to cope up with a huge surge in demand for travel to and from Qatar during the World Cup finals, which Qatar hosted from November 20th to December 18th. And of course, some of the countries like Uruguay and Argentina carried with them over 2,000 kilograms of sheep meat, that is mutton. If you're to look at that is button. If you're to look at situations regarding the fact that some of them were preparing for the World Cup, and it's something that most of the players were interested in, especially at the time when they were competing for the world. So when you look at that is mutton, the sheep's meat that was transported by the Argentines as well as the Uruguayan players for the last 1 month of the competition, over 2,000 kilograms of that. But of course, Tanzania benefited from the World Cup with meat exports hitting new levels heading to Qatar. Of course, Qatar is one of those particular destinations of Tanzania's meat products. And during the World Cup, it even became far better for the Tanzanians. Now, away from that, we look at the Tokyo 2020 broadcasting leads, as if we are to remember so well, the Olympic Games did happen in Tokyo. This competition was held in 2021 following the fact that in 2020 there was the COVID-19 lockdown, so it was pushed to 2021, but it did remain with the tagline Tokyo 2020 Olympics. Now, the Tokyo 2020 broadcasting leads have apparently shown that the IPC revenues and expenses both hit 53 million euros. Now, the International Paralympic Committee has reported revenues between 53.4 million revenues of 53.4 million euros for 2021, which this is apparently a sizable uplift on 2020 due to the one-off Tokyo 2020 broadcast project. Now, on the other hand, the broadcast initiative represented 28.9 million euros, or 54% of all IPC revenue last year. It accounted for 28.6 million euros, also 54% of all expenses. Now, the IPC returned a small profit of 12,078 euros for 2021, slightly down on the previous year's figure of 15,330 euros, rather, in regards to the broadcasting rights in there and the broadcasting revenues for the Tokyo Olympic Games. All right, now lastly, from the sports business, we head to the World Cup prize money 2022. Yesterday, we did mention on the fact that the champions Argentina walked away with 42 million pounds. Now, if we are to break down how much each team is set to earn, aside from the pride each nation generates from going into the run at the World Cup, each nation also earns World Cup prize money based on their performance. Now, FIFA dished out $440 million in prize money for the World Cup, as cash is given out depending on which stage of the tournament they received or reached, plus each team received 1.5 million just for qualification of the World Cup. Now, a breakdown from the winner: Argentina walked away with $42 million, France $30 million as the first runners up. Third place, Croatia walked away with $27 million. Morocco in fourth place, from the African continent, walked away with $25 million. You can see how much money that is for Morocco. Now, each team that reached the quarterfinals earned 17 million each. So the likes of Brazil, Netherlands, Portugal, and England walked away with $17 million for reaching the quarterfinals. Now, the teams that reached the round of last 16, which include United States of America, Senegal, Australia, Poland, Spain, Japan, Switzerland, and South Korea, walked away with $13 million each. Those are the teams that walked away with that money, having completely bowed out in the second round of the World Cup. Now, for the teams that did not make it out of the group stages, only to stay in the first round, which also includes three of the African teams in Tunisia, Ghana, and Cameroon. Also the host Qatar, including Ecuador, Wales, Iran, Mexico, Saudi Arabia, Denmark, Canada, Belgium, Germany, Costa Rica, Serbia, Ghana, and Uruguay walked away with $9 million each, if you are to look at that particular one. Now, as you can see on your screen, there's a breakdown for you to see how much each team earned during the tournament that was staged in Qatar, that just ended on Sunday with Argentina defeating France on penalties, who are the defending champion. Now, Argentina walked away with $42 million, France $30 million, Croatia in third place, $27 million after defeating Morocco on Saturday. Then fourth place, Morocco walked away with $25 million. Then the teams that made it to the quarterfinals walked away with $17 million per team. Brazil, Netherlands, Portugal, and England got knocked out in the quarterfinals. Now, the teams ranked 9 through the round of 16, $13 million per team. Those are the teams that were eliminated at the round of 16. Now, teams from 17th to 32nd place, $9 million per team. Now, first of all, if you're to bring this into the context of African football, for Uganda's initiative of heading into the World Cup, remember, with the World Cup 2026 that will be staged in 3 countries, Canada, Mexico, and the United States, the opportunity is very viable for Uganda to at least achieve this success of heading into the World Cup. Remember, now Africa has got 11 posts to at least go into the World Cup. 9 are permanent and then the other two via playoff. And the other two are via playoff, and the mere fact that Morocco made us proud by reaching the semi-final, we got our 11th spot to make it to the World Cup. But of course, Uganda has chances of qualifying if we prepare ourselves heavily. Imagine in a situation whereby, let's say, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi making it to the World Cup finals in 2026. First of all, here, every team that made it to the World Cup walked away with 1.5 million US dollars. That is just for qualification. Then in the group stages, if you could not make it out of the group stages, that is an additional 9 million US dollars for every team that did make it out of the group stages. Now, for the teams that made it out of the group stages, which included Senegal, for example, walked away with 13 million US dollars for making it out of the group stages. Now, for the teams that reached the quarterfinals, 17 million. And what a huge milestone for Morocco, who made it fourth place in the World Cup with $25 million. So, you can see with the huge disbursement of 440 million US dollars, that is something that we can ably look at and see that the World Cup did produce some good money. Well, later on, tomorrow in the show, we shall be breaking down some of the figures that were spent in Qatar in regards to preparation. Of course, Qatar did spend a lot of money prior to the event, but how much was spent during the event and how much was earned after the event, which turned out to be a success, one of the greatest World Cups to ever grace this particular footballing world. And of course, that is it for sports business this particular morning, as now we are crossing over to the entertainment business. With the entertainment business, Barija Andrew is on the way here to give us more of what is coming in from the entertainment business, only to understand what basic do we need to know of the world of entertainment. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Joram. You know, you've been breaking down the world of the teams, how much money each team wins. At some point, I come to believe that, don't you think sometimes those players don't really care about whether they win or lose? After all, it's about the money, because yes, even qualifying for the World Cup, it's money. What do you take of that?
No, in most cases, in the world of football, it has got nothing to do with the money. When you look at the players who actually don their jerseys, because apparently most of the players, after winning this money, in most cases, they end up sharing that money to different fundraising and orphanages simply because they receive more money at their clubs that they play for. Because apparently, for those who play, for example, in the top European clubs, earn weekly, and they earn wages that are close to the same money or more than that same money per week. So someone wouldn't mind about earning that little, or what I could call little for them at the time. But what ideally most of them have at the back of their mind is winning that glittering golden trophy that will clearly show you that you are among the greatest footballers of all time, having won the World Cup or having a World Cup medal with you in your cabin is something that every footballer wants out there, or winning a trophy with your national team. Because first of all, when you realize that only them appearing on the team sheet clearly makes them so happy. So the money in terms of playing for your team on the World Cup has basically got to do with a lot of African players who are always into that money aspect. But when you look at the other players from the international world, most of them have that spirit and urge to win the trophy first before they look at the money.
Wow, very interesting. At some point, I thought maybe some of these players care about money, don't really care about the food. Well, thank you for that brief insight regarding that. Now, getting straight into the business and entertainment, of course, just to give you a brief highlight of what we should anticipate. I was also looking at the aspect of the NBC Universal, that's the sales personnel, of course, taken down. That's Laura Mullen. Then, of course, we shall need to getting to see the, of course, the Rusty movies, which are as of 19th December, one of those movies never making money. Then we shall come down to the new Avatar, The Way of Water, which was released last week, and see how it grows. Of course, this is a movie that quite so many people were anticipating and we're waiting for to see how it's really going to perform. Okay, now I start with NBC Universal Art Sales President, and that's Laura Mullen, stepping down. And definitely this decision is bound to affect the entertainment companies' revenues, as of course we've been seeing the inflation affecting the entertainment industry in all aspects. So we are just thinking what is going to be the next step for IMBC Universal. When I review a report here, it says that Laura Mullen, the president of advertising and sales at NBC Universal, decided to leave the company. And of course, Mullen shared her decision in a memo that was to the staff. That was on Friday morning. This was not an easy decision for her to make, she says, but definitely for the betterment of her career and in the future, she had to really consider this. Of course, here we see that Mullen agreed to stay with the company through the end of the quarter, the first quarter, that's 2023. Of course, that's when she's going to be retiring officially from the company. Per note from Universal Sales Chair Linda, that's Carino, to whom Mullen reported, Mullen along, that's with her, co-president Mark Michelle, say a late advertising sales and partnerships for the company, that's including obviously the company's critical upfront negotiations. Remember, NBC Universal is part of the Universal Studios, the same conglomerate which is run by Comcast. You know, Comcast is the mother company. Through Comcast, we see NBC Universal, we see Peacock, and all those likes. So this is going to be, we don't know what this really is going to head the company to, because the fame at which the company had obtained, that's NBC Universal, has been as a result of this lady